Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Recha, Quadash, and double honors unto the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to all you Wakim out there who pushing his word with all truth and sincerity, and as well as to all you believers out there who believing on the gospel. And it's the brother Quara Abad from the GMS Houston camp. And real quick, I want to go into another lesson, which stems from yesterday at camp. A couple of brothers out here in the Houston camp, we started having camp on Tuesdays as well as on Fridays, But yesterday at the Tuesday camp, we had a couple people came up, stopped and listened, whether it was Edomites, kind of gave ear, or, our people, as we would know them as Negroes. But you had this, this elderly lady, she was in this wheelchair, but, and, she was just, because I was on the camera, and now I get into the point what I want to go into, how our job as teachers is to make what the Bible say easy to be understood for these modern times, But going back, just building upon the topic, giving the lesson some foundation. But you had this elderly woman. She was coming down the street. She had like a electric wheelchair. And I was on the camera. I seen her coming. And she was just going to pass us, She kind of nodded her head, And she was just going to pass us. We would call a Negro woman, maybe late 60s, early 70s. But as soon as I seen her brother Yakar Bond, I forget what precept it was, but man, she was in the electric scooter, so she was moving kind of fast. In a wheelchair, so it was moving kind of fast. But as soon as that brother read out that Bible verse, she stopped, just stopped. When she backed up, and she looked at the brothers who was, standing, at the preaching, bringing it out, and she just backed up where the other brothers was who was listening. She stayed the whole time for a good about 2 hours. And she stayed. But now getting to the point, and as, she was out there, brothers was teaching, and, Elder Taza Pa kind of made the point to where, although we may understand what we talking about when we use biblical terminology, or, like, for example, when we say Jake, now, we know we talking about the Israelites, whether it's blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, but for short or for a nickname for our people, slang, Hebrew slang, we say Jake, right? But when people out there listening, whether it's at the block, on video of people out there listening, and we continue to say Jake, then they might think we talking about somebody named Jake, an actual man named Jake. He, how we be talking, about Israelites, how they be fucking up and doing this and doing that. They probably think like, now whoever Jake is, but getting, or even when we say, Esau, just explain certain things on what we talking about, because people could hear those names as Esau or Jake and not know what it mean. But that's why the Lord sent us here in the last days to give the actual interpretation from the heavens, man, on what these things are talking about. And which brothers last night, even on the block, brothers was doing that, because, a couple brothers was, spoke. But, brothers was going into it, breaking it down. The Taza Pa was just kind of, making a point to remind us, don't forget, we may know certain things, but other people, it might have to be a little more explaining, as the Apostle Paul say, going back to the basics, as he often say. But let's start with this real quick in the book of Habakkuk. Chapter 2. So there's Habakkuk chapter 2, and I might jump back and forth from the KJV and the NLT as well. But there's Habakkuk chapter 2 and verse 1. It says, I will stand upon my watch and set me upon the tower, and I will watch to see what he will say unto me, and what I shall answer when I am reproved. So this the prophet Habakkuk speaking about the Most High, saying, look, he's standing on his watch to see what the Most High got to say and what he going to do. And that's the same situation we in. We got to pay attention to the times and the events that's going on to see what's the next move that the Most High is about to make in the earth. And it goes on to say, verse 2, and Yahweh answered me and said, write the vision and make it plain upon tables, that he may run that readeth it. So first, let's go back. Let's read that again. It says, and Yahweh said, Habakkuk 2:2, write the vision. Now, one, what's the vision? You see? That's dreams or actual, visions, or, whether a prophet back then was in a trance and seen something, but the things that the Most High revealed to the prophets of old, again, through many different visions and dreams, they wrote those things down. That's why we have them today to read out the Bible. They wrote them down. Now, just because they wrote them down or seen certain dreams from the Lord, don't mean they understood them. For example, you had Daniel when he interpreted Nebuchadnezzar's dream. Now, he told Nebuchadnezzar, he said, look, Nebuchadnezzar, you in Babylon, y'all the head of gold. But why Daniel ain't keep going and saying, then the next is going to be, the Persians and the Medes. They gonna be the chest and the shoulders of the arms of silver, and then after them, Alexander and the Greeks gonna come, and then it's gonna be Rome. Why he ain't going into detail? Then that's gonna fall, and America go. He ain't going into detail because they didn't know back then. It didn't happen yet. We're in the time that is happening. We're in the time that is taking place. So that's why we can better expound upon it. And men be having problems with. When the Apostle Tahar say, we know more than the prophets of old. It ain't nothing that we trying to give ourselves credit or big up ourselves. It's just that, for example, John the Revelator, he didn't know specifically what that beast was. But today we could tell him, and the whore, today we could tell him, well, look, that's NATO and the EU, make up the beast, and America, the great whore, she set up upon it. The beast is influenced by that woman that's on it, man. So it's not that we, trying to say we just, better than prophets of old, just things have played out since then. So now we can go into secular history and prove what the scriptures were saying. And now we know what's left to be fulfilled. For example, the MOTB. John the Apostle, he couldn't speak on that specifically like we can, because we living in that time that it's actually showing its own mainstream media. As they say, the world's elites are talking about it. World War III. They just knew arrows was going to fly. They didn't say ICBM missiles going to shoot from Russia and but we in that time. So going back to this, Salaki for, rant, but it says Habakkuk 2:2, and Yahweh answered me and said, write the vision. So the prophets of old wrote the vision. So what's our point? Us here today seeing the visions have already been wrote. It's nothing else to really see. Whatever the Lord going to have take place that he gave to us to see, because there's many other things. For example, Esdras, he's seen many other things, but the Most High told him certain things keep to himself. All right, so we don't know, and he said we know in part, we prophesy in part. Certain things he gave us to know, and there's many things he didn't. Same thing with John in Revelation the 10th chapter. Whatever John see, the angel told him, don't write this down. So we don't know what happened or what he's seen or what he heard to take place in the last days. But what we do have, seeing what already happened, now we can understand, okay, well, this all we got left. And then this got to happen. And, we can place it together because they got the visions. And what's our point? Next it says, and make it plain upon tables. That's our job, to make it to be easily understood. So hearers out there who never, because look, they might have read the Bible, but they may not know who certain kings are in the Bible, or, certain accounts in this true understanding. John 3:16 in this real understanding. Who Yahweh Shai. We may be saying Yahweh Shai, but we got to let them know who they ignorantly call Jesus Christ. But let's continue. It says, and Yahweh said, answered me and said, write the vision. So the prophets of old wrote the vision, it says, and make it plain upon tables, that he may run that readeth it. So the message can spread. So the message can spread like an ancient post. He'll get a message and he'll run through the city telling everybody, right? So there's we can make it easy to be understood to others. And like it said in Timothy, and those who understand it, they can go out and push it now. And it says, verse 3, for the vision is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it shall speak and not lie. And that's why we're able to go into all these prophecies, because now it either, one, happened already in secular history so we can expound on it, you see, or two, is waiting to happen. And we see the build up to it. We go into articles, so on and so forth. But now it's speaking, man. And it says, and not lie, though it tarry, wait for it, because it shall surely come and shall not tarry. Now I want to get this as well real quick in Ezra. Because when you go into Ezra, now remember, in Ezra, this was when we was in our captivity in the Babylonian Empire. When Nebuchadnezzar first came, took down the southern kingdom, Jerusalem, the temple. Edomites burnt it, as it's saying in First Ezra, the 4th chapter, I believe. But he took our people captive, took some of us to Babylon. Then eventually, Persians and the Medes came. But over time, the Lord sent us back. The first wave was Zerubbabel. You see, the first wave was Zerubbabel and Joshua the high priest. And I think they took back like 70-some thousand, 60, 70-some thousand. I have to fact check that, if a brother knows specifically, but it was a good bit. But the first wave going back from Babylon to Jerusalem to rebuild the second temple, the first wave was Zerubbabel and Joshua the high priest, right? And then you had Ezra. Then Ezra went back. Now the job of, just some history, and I get to the point I want to get. Now the job of Zerubbabel and Joshua was to rebuild the altar and rebuild the temple, which makes sense that Zerubbabel, it will start with him and Joshua. That's one of those, if you know, you know. But their job was to go back and build the altar and build the temple. And when Ezra came, he came some years later, and he led the second wave back, and it was a couple thousand with him. And then now Ezra's job wasn't specifically to go there and build, but it was to restore our people back to knowing who their power was, right? Getting acquainted with the law, getting acquainted with Yahweh, and his ways, back to the heritage. Because that was in what? Babylon, 65 to 70 some years plus, 65 to 70 some years. But as it's saying, what that is, Daniel, which Jeremiah prophesied about it. So that's the easy falling away or forgetting the customs. So that was Ezra's job, to go back and restore our people to the right way. And then some years later, you had Nehemiah, and his job was to build the wall around the temple. And that's what completed it. And I think it took him like 52 days. But going back to Ezra, that's what we're about to read. Remember, his job was to go back and restore Jake back to because they was going to physically build, but Ezra's job was to spiritually build Jake back up. Right now, and the point he was going, get our people I'm saying it, Jake, but the Israelites, the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, back in that right mindset, he had to get the law of the Lord, and he had men now, just like we be on the highways and hedges. He'll read, and the men who was there with him will break it down so the people could easily understand what he was talking about, But let me snag that. I thought it was in Ezra. I think it's in Nehemiah. You see, but and look, this is the thing. It ain't like we ain't gonna, even myself, we ain't gonna say Jake or. Of course, that's the Bible terms. That's terms we know as a people. Ain't nothing wrong with that. Shit, Yahweh shall use cold words so everybody ain't know what he was talking about. Because sometimes the Lord wants us to say that so everybody don't get it. We doing this mostly so those who want to understand, those who want to believe. Sometimes we may speak slang or in parables, use cold words, and the Lord may have us doing that so if somebody pass by, they don't know what we talking about and they just walk off because it's not for them. No, it's not for them. But let's snag this. This is in Nehemiah. I found it. The water out by Shemal Shai. It's Nehemiah 8, and I'm going to start at verse 5. Now, again, Nehemiah's job was to restore the Israelites back to knowing their power. And it says, Nehemiah 8 and 5, and Ezra opened the book in the sight of all the people, for he was above all the people, because he was on like a platform, or podium. It says, for he was above all the people, and when he opened it, all the people stood up. And Ezra blessed the Lord Yahweh, the great power. And all the people answered, Tawab, Tawab. Now in the scriptures it says, Amen. Tawab, But it says, with lifting up their hands, and they bowed their heads and worshiped the Lord with their faces to the ground. Now here it is, it says, and Jeshua and Benai and Sherebiah and Yamin and Akab and Shabbathai and Hadijah and Messiah, and is naming men, and Kalida and Azariah and Josabad and Hanan and Peliah and the Levites caused the people to understand the law. So as Ezra was speaking or reading the law, you had them men on side of him breaking it down. How we be at camp, you'll have a brother reading a precept, and you'll have, men going into it, men giving a sense of it, the understanding, so we can understand. Because, again, especially in these times, we don't speak ancient language or, the King James English, although we understand it, but we don't talk like that with the regular citizens of the world, our neighbors. Certain similar tools they used back then, we might not have those same animals or went through those same experiences they had on farms, and when they use similar tools of husbandry in the scriptures. Or for example, when the prophet seen the missiles being shot off, which is going to be shot off in our time, they liken it unto flying arrows, man. Because they didn't know specifically what it was like we do. So as we read the Bible and reading certain prophecies and touching on certain parables and mysteries, we can speak, since we know it, we can break it down, kind of like interpreting the scriptures. You got people who one speak English, one speak Chinese. They talk and they don't know, they get an interpreter. So the Chinese person speak to another person who know Chinese and who know English, and he can get an English person. Well, that's kind of how it is. We know what the Lord talking about in these scriptures because they're Rachak Wadash on us. And now, since we know the slang of this world, the mind of the world, we can speak to these people in that way. Like Apostle Paul said, he became all things to all men. So we can speak to them people in that way as we breaking it down. And liking what we read in the scriptures that was written thousands of years ago on to any experience on what our people may be going through in this present time, man. Hitting on Jacob and Esau, going into, look, that's a so-called white man. We say Jacob, look, blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, and not just Babylon, Babylon, which is America. The modern day Sodom and Gomorrah, on why, so on and so forth. Even chariots, because we was going into that yesterday, chariots. We speak of, being in chariots and all that, but people may not, well, what's the chariots? Making it easy to be understood, that's what you know as a UFO, whether they can receive it or not. Because a lot of stuff the Lord may have us speak plainly, it may be, this is the thing, it may be too much to swallow for some people. Because they may be shaking their head, then once you say a UFO, they like, that's what the record scratch like, what that is, house party. When the old dude kept bumping the DJ booth, man. You see, the music kept messing up with Bilal Martin, I think. Yeah, he was on the DJ booth. But anyway, sometimes when we do be playing, that might be too much for people. And look, if it is, that mean they just weren't meant to get it. Because said we would have spoke plainly and not said that Esau, the so-called white man, we would have just said the Edomites going in captivity. Well, when they heard, and I'm just kind of giving examples, and said what person here, so-called white people, they may get offended. Okay, well, look, the Lord ain't want them. But it's still, at the end of the day, our job, whether who we talking to make it easy to be understood, because these heathens need to hear their judgment specifically. These Edomites need to hear you ain't a so-called white person. You ain't no Caucasian. You's an Edomite. All these other nations along with Esau. Our people need to hear who they really are and what they need to stop doing and start doing. Everybody need to hit a specific judgment that's coming. The names of the Lord, Yahweh and Yahweh Shai, so they can know who to tie this great destruction to, man. But let's finish reading this. So again, Ezra right here with the format of a camp that we be in today. Him, Levites, and other men, respected men. So this is what they did. It says, verse 8, Nehemiah 8:8. So they read in the book, in the law of the Most High, distinctly, and gave the sense and caused them to understand the reading. Let's look that up in the NLT. Distinctly. Nehemiah 8:8. Let's see. This is the Amplified Bible version, because we use that word translating. It says, so they read the book of the Lord of Most High, things that was written before their time. It says, and translating and explaining it so that the people understood the reading. Come on, NLT. It says they read from the book of the Lord of Most High and clearly explained the meaning of what was being read, helping the people understand each passage. Man, let's look at that word distinctly, because the KJV said they read it distinctly. And this quick Google definition. It says in a way that is readily distinguishable. Right, which, you can recognize and understand it. It says by senses, clearly. It says in a way that is noticeable, apparent. Right. That is very noticeable. In other words, it's easy to be understood. Let's read it again. Nehemiah 8:8. So they read in the book in the Lord of Most High distinctly and gave the sense and caused them to understand the reading. Right. I read 9. And Nehemiah, which is the Tirshatha, and I believe it's the governor, and Ezra, the priest, the scribe, and the Levites that taught the people, said unto all the people, this day is holy unto Yahweh your power. Mourn not, nor weep, for all the people wept when they heard the words of the law, man. But let's get this real quick. This is it's Sirach, I believe, correctly. Sirach, I think it's in Sirach. Even being, on point with the scriptures. On point. We is singing a song. Shit, if for example, myself, hey, I was at camp one time, speaking, right? But because brothers misspeak at times, we say different stuff. But went off one time at camp, pulled aside, he got cussed out. Which it ain't fun. It's I want to say it's funny because it ain't funny. This thing's serious, man. We got to make sure we be on point. And again, speaking to myself first and foremost, but I'm giving a testimony to myself, because I don't want to, seem like a hypocrite. But shit, I, kind of slipped up one time at camp. Brothers pulled me to the side and like, bro, you said this, cussed me out. But the point was, it's needed because now I have more care of what I'm doing just from that situation or what I'm saying. Because why? The Lord wants us to speak this thing his way. It ain't none of our ministry. It ain't about what we saying. And, it's all about what the Lord wants to go out. That's what Yahweh Shai even said. And that's the Lord. He said, what I'm speaking is what my Father want me to speak. So how much more us? Now, I'm looking for the scripture in Sirach, though. It says, speak the word correctly and directly. Let me see. 'Cause I'm trying to look on my phone. Okay, here it is. So this, and I ended after this, but this is Sirach chapter 16. I'm going to start up. Let's see. Sirach 16:24, it says, my son, hearken unto me and learn knowledge and mark my words with thine heart. And it's the point right here. Verse 25, it says, I will show forth doctrine in weight and declare his knowledge exactly. You see, just as it is, man. Declare the Most High knowledge exactly. And then what? That's giving an interpretation on what they're saying. Because anybody can read the Bible, but they ain't read with understanding. So that's the point of the prophets being sent in these last times, to declare the Most High word exactly so the people in modern times can understand what's being said. Whether it's for a believer to believe, or for a two-third or a heathen to feel condemned. That's what it's for. But just kind of something was on my spirit, Lord willing, it was edifying. I want to give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rachak, and double honors unto the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to all you Wakim out there who pushing this word with truth and sincerity, and as well as to all you believers out there who believe in on the gospel and keep fighting, keep pushing. And with that, shalom.